For centuries, we've tried to figure out how to build a faith that lasts. And I think that if we pursue progress over perfection, that we're going to get to that goal. So stick around and I'm going to let you know how. Hi, I'm Chad Torgerson with Directional Faith. And if you've struggled trying to figure out how to build a faith that lasts, I think that if we take some time to focus on our progress, instead of trying to achieve perfection, that you're going to be able to get there a little bit quicker. Now, if you're new here to the channel, make sure you stop and you subscribe, right? That way you can get the latest videos as they come out. So first of all, welcome to my new office. I'm an IT guy by trade, so I've got a little office that I do my freelancing work out of, and I decided maybe this would be a good place to set up a studios too. So I do work at home, and I do a lot of my school at home, but I also have my office here. It helps me get away from the kids, the family, and all the noise that's going on through the day. So welcome to the office. One of these days, I'll take you on a quick tour and show you around. There's a lot of cool stuff here, actually, not just here in this office, but around the building, and you'll probably see some of those areas in other videos, maybe even in this video. Here's one of the spaces here. What do you think? Pretty cool, right? Now, before we dive into the topic, right, I want you to stick around because I promised that at the end, I'm going to give you a couple of tools that are going to help you focus on progress over perfection, right? But for right now, let's stop and we'll take some time to talk about why exactly I think that focusing on progress is so important, and that how perfection actually can be a trap for us in one of the ways that it actually stops us from making progress going forward. So you've probably noticed the guitar in the background. So let me start off by telling you a little story about that. A little over a decade ago, I bought my first guitar, and I really struggled with it. I was a little shy. I was playing at home, and I was nervous to play in front of the family, and I just couldn't get up the nerve to really practice with it. And it was really hard in the beginning, because when you first start out, for anyone that's ever done an instrument, you know what I'm talking about. You sound awful, right? It's a really difficult thing to do. And so over time, I got really discouraged, and eventually I put the guitar down, right? I really wanted to be like my guitar heroes. I wanted to be like Angus Young and Kenny Wade Shepherd and Buddy Guy and these other great guitar heroes, but I struggled to be able to play music like they did. I couldn't even play a simple chord. So eventually I got discouraged. I gave up, and the guitar sat in the closet, started collecting dust, right? And how many times is this the way our faith goes? We get new into the faith and we're excited and we want to learn more and all these things. But then we look around at the people around us and they're so good at faith, it seems like, right? They've got it all down. They know the prayers. They're regular churchgoers. They do all the right things, right? They're following faith the way it's supposed to. And we look at ourselves and we get discouraged. And we start to maybe pull back from our faith a little bit. Now, we've all been there. I think everybody in the beginning of their faith journey has struggled to really find that, those first steps that really help you start to gain the momentum and get going with it. We're stuck in those first phases where, maybe we go to church every week, maybe we say the occasional Our Father or simple prayer, but we really struggle to go to that next level. And so over time, our faith kind of sits in the closet, right? It's collecting dust there. But that's not what God wants for us. He doesn't want our faith collecting dust. He wants us to build that. He wants to give us the tools we need to be able to grow and mature that faith. In my opinion, this is why we're struggling as a church. People are falling away from faith because they struggle to go beyond these basics. They haven't built that stronger relationship with God yet, right? When I look at some of the more evangelical churches, they do a great job of bringing people in, right? I was part of those churches back in the day. And we're great at bringing people in, but sometimes people get lost in the shuffle. They join the church. There's a lot of classes for, hey, here's Church 101. Once they get past that, though, are they meeting their needs? Are they finding ways to grow in the church? Now, in more traditional churches like the one I belong to now, Catholic churches, at times, we have programs like RCIA and things like that teach the basics of the faith. But are we helping people to get connected with that? Are we helping them to develop their prayer life, to get closer to God, to learn how to study Scripture from the beginning, right? Because a lot of times what I found when I was first becoming Catholic was when I started reading books on things, and this is true of all Christian faith, I think, that you start reading some of these books, and the vocabulary is way out there, and all these things are so difficult to comprehend as somebody new to the faith, it becomes discouraging again. We start to struggle with, finding what are the next steps? Where are those kind of intermediate resources that we need? You're at that beginner stage and you want to go to the next level. And it's either, we have the beginner stuff of, hey, welcome to faith. Here's Jesus. Nice to meet him. To, deep studies on, the complexities of our religion. Where's that middle ground, right? How do we go and fill in that gap? And so one of the purposes that I have on this channel is helping fill that middle gap. So if you're kind of new to faith, or if you're somebody that's been sitting in the pews for years and you really haven't taken that next step, I'm hoping that I can help you get there, right? Let's take some of these steps. Some of my other videos will help with that. But my goal here is to teach you that progress is what's going to get you there. About 3 years ago, I decided to pick up the guitar again, right? And this time, I made a determined effort that I was going to make this happen. Now, one thing is that there's a lot of resources out there that weren't available before. There's videos on YouTube and online lessons you can take. Things that when I first started, I couldn't afford to go to lessons. So there wasn't really any way for me to learn on my own how to play guitar. So I really struggled just reading books and things like that. It's a very hands-on exercise. So reading books about it just didn't help a lot. So now I've got these videos and I said, okay, I'm going to give myself a half hour to an hour every day, and I'm really going to stick with this. And I started doing it, right? And within 3 months, 6 months, I could start playing chords. I could play your basic campfire song. Wasn't great. I still wasn't Angus Young, but I could play the guitar and I could actually make it sound like music, sort of. But then life got in the way a little bit. About 6 months in, I started to struggle finding the time to be able to do it. And because I wasn't devoting regular time to it again, I wasn't giving it that 30, 60 minutes a day, my guitar started falling off. And I actually thought about giving it up again. And so I think that's kind of the next phase, right? So maybe you're there. Maybe you're at that point where you started on the faith journey. And for the first 3 to 6 months, things were actually going pretty well. And you thought, hey, I'm really making progress with this. I'm starting to develop a prayer life, and I'm learning more about the Bible and all these things. And then life got in the way and you got busy. And so you weren't able to give that same amount of time anymore. Things at work got a little crazy. You have problems at home with your family. Maybe you got sick. And so during this time, you started to fall off and not be able to give God that same amount of time and attention the way you did in the beginning. And so as that starts to happen, all of a sudden, there you go. The guitar's sitting in the closet again. It's collecting dust. And that's what happened to me. And I literally thought about selling my guitar and just being done with it. After about a month or so, I decided, you know what? No, I'm going to stick with this. I had found I really enjoyed playing guitar. I didn't have really any hobby. So this was something that I was able to use to relieve stress at the end of the day and find something to use for my creative outlet and to be able to express myself. And so it became an important part of who I was. And so I decided to pick it back up again. And even if I could only find 15 minutes a day, or maybe it was half an hour every other day, I was going to start doing it again. And over time, I was able to do that. I was able to start putting it back into daily practice again. And now it's been 3 years and my guitar playing is better than ever. Now, I'm still not Angus Young, and I can play a little bit of blues, but I'm no Buddy Guy, right? But over this time, I've been able to develop skills that allow me to play and have fun, and it actually sounds like music. I can actually mimic songs that I've heard on the radio. So when it comes to our faith, we have to be able to persevere through that, right? We have to see that it takes a lot of hard work to progress through those difficult times. That if we want to make progress, we have to stop focusing on the perfection, the fact that you're not like your guitar hero, and we have to, slowly, day by day, learn a chord, learn a scale, do these things. And in our faith life, we often try to imitate the saints. We try to imitate the great Christians that come before us. Whether you're someone like me that loves St. Ignatius, or you're a big fan of Billy Graham. When you look at their lives and you look at how much they've done for the world and the strength of their faith and all these things, and we try to compare ourselves against them, we start to really kind of get down on ourselves and say, well, I'll never be like them. And it's that striving for perfection that starts to slow us down because we compare ourselves even against our neighbors. If I were to go to your local blues jam, and I look at some of those guitars there, guys that have been playing guitar for 15, 20 years now, they'll blow me away, right? They can play circles around me. But that doesn't mean that I can't have fun playing anyways. And just like maybe you're not at the same level of faith as the person sitting in the pew next to you, that doesn't mean that you should give up. Because if you want to get to where they're at, you need to make that steady progress. Now, progress isn't something that we make all in one big chunk. And unfortunately, in our society where we're so focused on the quick wins and the immediate gratification, we need to be able to overcome that. Just like I couldn't pick up a guitar and start playing songs right away, right? Which all those people out there that say that there were naturals at guitar and, oh, I just learned to play by ear and all these things, that's great for you, but generally speaking, don't lie to us, right? We all know that at some point you had to spend a lot of time focused on doing that task and that skill repetitively to get as good as you are, no matter how much natural talent you have. And it's the same thing when it comes to faith. For some people, faith comes naturally. Maybe they grew up in the faith life, or maybe they're just more attuned spiritually. But they still have to focus on their prayer life. They have to spend time in prayer. They have to spend time reading the Bible, right? They have to devote this time, and they're going to grow as they go along. So as we try to imitate, whether it's our guitar heroes or our saints, right, we get caught up in this idea of perfection, that we want to be able to do what they do. And we can't. First of all, we're not them, and B, it's going to take us some time to get there. And chances are we're not going to end up in the same destination anyways. We're going to develop our own style and skills and everything else, whether it's playing the guitar or prayer. All right, so the main thing is that we just need to make sure that we don't focus on this perfection to the point that it becomes a discouragement for us. That it's okay that if you're not where everybody else is at, you'll get there hopefully in time. But just be who you are. Take steps day by day. Spend time in prayer. Spend time reading the Bible. Spend time going to church every Sunday. And find ways to slowly grow and make progress. Now, at the beginning of the video, I promised to give you some secret tips that might help you, measure some of this progress and be able to look back and see that, hey, you've actually grown and that you've been able to do a lot in your faith. So one of the first tips I can give you is to journal. It's something I love to do. I'm horrible at keeping up with it, honestly. So I'm giving you advice, but I'm horrible at sticking with it myself, right? See, we all have to grow. But, when I first went on a retreat about a year ago, I started journaling. And now when I look back to that journal and I see the progress I made just in that one silent weekend that I had taken, how much I had grown just in those 3 days. And it's a great experience for me to go back and reflect on that and remember why I'm doing this right now. I'm doing these videos right now. I'm going to school right now. I'm doing all these things because that retreat inspired me to do it. So whenever I start to struggle and doubt and think, why am I doing this? Am I really cut out to do this? Is this what God has called me to do? I go back to those journals. I'm able to reflect on it and say, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing it. This is how God touched me. This is such a pivotal moment in my life. And I'm able to reflect back and remember why I'm doing it. Beyond journaling, one thing that I think is really important is reading scripture. So how would you be able to measure that? Well, I think the easy way is start at the New Testament, right? Start with Matthew and read through. And when you realize that you've read through the entire New Testament, you'll realize what a milestone that was. For the first time, you've not only read the stories of Jesus, not just what you hear on Sundays, but you've read the whole story and you're getting the whole picture from all 4 Gospels. You've read all the epistles, the letters, what St. Paul wrote to the Philippians and the Ephesians and everybody else. And you're going to really have a great picture of what it means to be a Christian. So start there. Grab a Bible, pick a spot, and start reading. And realize that when you get to the end of it, you're going to be able to see that progress, how much more you're going to learn. And when you're done, go back to Matthew and start again. Now, of course, we can read the Old Testament too, but reading the Old Testament takes a little bit of knowledge. And, unless you're reading along with some kind of study Bible or something like that, a lot of it gets really confusing. So, when I first read the Bible, I actually made that mistake. I started with Genesis and tried reading through, and I got stuck. So listen to me, start at Matthew and go from there. I hope those tips are going to help you make progress in your faith. If you'd like to see more of this content, don't forget to subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.